Okay, so this evening's meeting is being recorded. We're in a Zoom only format because of what had been the projected weather for heavy snow this evening. I had notified the town clerk to post that the meeting would not be physically held at Ritter, and hopefully that posting was done to keep us in accordance with the open meeting laws. This evening's recording will be available on the town's public access YouTube channel within 24 hours. So with that, I will call the meeting to order. I don't believe we have any members of the public with us, and hopefully we'll get our other commission member to join us before too long. I did not hear back from Nathan when I sent him out the email and a text saying that we were going to go to a Zoom only format. So hopefully he's seen the message and is not down at the Ritter building waiting for us to show up. We did get a set of meeting minutes from William. Thank you very much for doing those. Is there a second or a motion to move the meeting minutes?
I motion to accept the minutes as presented.
And I will second those. Were there any, I looked at them. I didn't see any need for any changes. Richard, how do you feel about the meeting minutes? Are you okay with them?
Yes, thought they were perfect.
Yeah. Okay, so all those in favor of approving the meeting minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's done. We did not have any correspondence other than our normal and customary postcard from the National Heritage Area, which is within our the town of Lunenburg. We're within that heritage area, and just keeping us up to date on the various activities that they have going on. The next item on current business, recruiting a new commission member. I did send an email to Kim Duffy and indicated to her that I would like for her to consider joining the Architectural Preservation District Commission. Kim has not responded. I'm going to go ahead. I sent her an email. Next, I'm going to try and find a phone number for her so that I can call her and talk to her by phone. So that's still an outstanding item, and hopefully we'll get some response. If she says no, then we'll continue to look for a commission member. What's interesting is, you know, most of the commissions and committees within the town seem to be populated by a common group of people. Like I noticed that one of our former members, Anthony Nicastro, who is a part of the zoning board of appeals, is now part of the conservation committee. So that means that we hopefully will have some success in finding someone who's already serving the town and get them to join up. So we'll start with Kim Duffy. If she says no, then I'm going to look at the list of other members on other committees and see if we can recruit somebody. Do you all have any ideas about whether there's someone that I should target if Kim turns us down?
I don't know of anybody, but at the Historical Commission, trying to recruit younger people.
Yeah.
So they have a longer, they're able to learn from us and then continue on. At the Historical Commission, I'm concerned it's just going to die out at some point.
Yeah, I think that's the challenge, is trying to find someone who's a little younger than what we are. William, I'm so glad you represent that younger demographic. And
that gray in my beard doesn't really give me the younger demographic, I'm afraid, but I'll take it.
No. Trust me, we consider you to be part of that younger group of people. And William, I would ask that if you know anybody, you know, you're getting more and more acquainted with people in the time. So if you know anybody, please feel free to reach out. It doesn't have to come from the chair. An invitation does not have to come from the chair. So if you think there's somebody out there that might be interested, please ask them to at least tune into a meeting. You know, we're going to continue to do our meetings via Zoom. I think it's good for us to meet in person. And the only reason why we didn't do that tonight was because of the weather forecast. So if you know of anybody, feel free to invite them to join us for our next meeting. All right, so let's move to old business, because there's a couple things that I want to get done before Richard has to bail. The master plan meeting at the senior center, or at the Lunenburg Adult Activity Center on the 2nd of February was very informative. You know, the people that were there represented mostly senior citizens. I was at the 4 o'clock session. There was a 6:30 session, you know, for those who have to work, you know, so almost everybody that was in the 4 o'clock session was probably retired based on what I saw. And a couple of things that continue to come across both in the surveys as well as in the public comments at the 2 public meetings. People want to preserve the historic nature of Lunenburg, and they want to preserve the rural aspect that the town represents. In particular, keep the farms going and make sure that this is a town that has that farm rural feel to it. So I think it's, hold on, let me admit somebody else. Yeah, we have a member of the public joining us, Mandy's iPhone. Okay, so it's good for us to hear that people support the notion that history is important and that the rural nature of the community is important. And I'm really glad that that continues to be a theme that we're hearing in those master plan public meetings. All right, so let's, any comments about that? Any questions? All right.
Need to turn on the camera.
Let's talk a little bit about our guideline changes in a certificate to alter. What I want to do, here's the thing that I need from you. I need for you all to take a look at the documents that I sent. Now, I know the design guidelines has got a lot of red ink in it, and it may be hard to see. And if that's a problem for you, let me know. And then what I'll do is that I'll accept all those changes and send that copy back out to you for review. But I wanted you to get a feel for what it's going, like what got cut out and what's been deleted. And what my strategy is that I'd like for you to look at it and come back by email just to say proceed to a final copy, which we would then I would then get Ann Aubrey to help me produce a final copy that we would then vote on at the March meeting. So take a look at now, if you say I still have some issues, go to a final copy. When we get together at the March meeting, we can still make changes, and we would do that in an open format. But I just want to know from you as to whether you want me to move to a final copy for our final discussions and vote at the town meeting. At our next commission meeting, not the town meeting, the next commission meeting. There's 2 things in there that we had discussed, and I want some input from you right now. I could not get the town clerk's office to respond to my request for who sets the fees and can we eliminate the fees. I sent 3 emails to the town clerk's office and I never heard back from them. And I know that they got my email. I went online and I looked at the planning department and the planning board's fee structure, and there's no mention of fees for filing an application for certificate to alter. So I'm going to propose that, and there's no fee structure associated with submitting the certificate to alter. And if you look at the modified copy that I made, that's now been removed. The other thing that I'm not sure of is whether we really need to have an abutters list and an envelope for us to notify those who abut a particular project area. That's a pretty cumbersome thing to do. And you'll see in the design or in the design guidelines, I've actually highlighted that in red, because what I want to do is just to say, we want you to give us an abutters list so that when we review the certificate to alter, we know where this area is. and who might be affected by the proposed change. And then if we think that it's really important that all the people who abut a project area are notified, that then we would go back to the applicant and say, hey, you got to notify these people. And then the language in the design guidelines would state so, so rather than making them prepare an envelope with a stamp, the way it is right now, is that we would put that as something only if after our review warrant, after we've done our review, that it would warrant that change. So what are your thoughts? Let me start with you, Richard, because you may have to drop off before we're finished with this discussion.
On the fees, we had the power to institute the fee, and we did that because we were using the land use secretary and felt that her time should be covered by it. Otherwise, I don't know that it's necessary. That was a decision we made, if my memory is correct with that. And on the abutters list, that was in there because if it goes to a hearing, we need to have that information, and the secretary sends out the notice of the hearing to all the abutters.
Oh,
So so that comes in when we was coming in with the CTA, so we would have that in place. You can't rely that's put out by the secretary.
all right, so what you're saying is that we would still ask them for a butters list, but the way the design guidelines, the way I interpreted the design guidelines of old, was that we made them give us an envelope with a stamp so that we could send that notification out. So what I hear you saying, Richard, is that we still ask for an abutters list, and they get that by conversations with the assessor's office, and then
that in the envelope, I believe, was requested by the secretary for the land use department wanted that
okay.
as their regular procedure.
All right, so I would go back to we're operating a little bit at a disadvantage because we don't have a land use director, and so that's something that I'm trying to minimize how much work that people have to do in order to go through this process.
Yeah.
All right. So maybe what I'll do is I'll go back to Ann and say, do you want an envelope? Or can you just work from a list which has names and addresses on it, and then they can figure out how to provide the notification. Anything else? Richard, I don't know whether you've had a chance to look at the changes, but anything else that you might want to share?
No, I looked at them all, and they were all good, I thought.
Okay. All right. William.
I think we can move forward.
All right, William.
I think the fees, kind of like Richard said, if we're using that secretary, if that money's going there, something to consider. I don't think we should charge a fee just to charge a fee. But if someone has to get paid on the back end, that money's going to come from somewhere. And yeah, I'm all for the abutters list. Maybe we can do some type of hybrid where they provide the list and some envelopes and stamps. And then if we don't have to go to formal review, they can come pick them back up. That way it's, ends up being a no cost to them. Kind of as a middle ground if we want to try and make it easier for people and not take as much coin out of their pocket.
Well, as I read the bylaws, now maybe I'm wrong about this, but if we're going to have them submit an application for a certificate to alter, it means we're going to binding review. That's one of the reasons why I produced the intermediate step that says, let's determine whether or not you're going to go to binding review. So if we go back, now if they send us, they have two choices under the design guidelines that we've described here. They can just automatically say, I got a complicated project. I know it's going to be, something that's going to be somewhat contentious. They're going to send us the certificate or the application for a certificate to alter. So once we're in that stage, it means we're having a public review or a public hearing. The intermediate stage of saying, send us your project description, and maybe we can determine that a certificate to alter is not required, then that's clearly a case where, we're probably not gonna go to a public hearing. But if someone says, I'm submitting, an application for certificate to alter, then under the design guidelines, it pretty much means we're going to a public hearing. All right, so just kind of as a consensus, I sense that we need to do something with fees, you know, if we're gonna involve the town staff. I don't agree with that, but there's three of us on the phone call, and two out of the three say that, you know, we ought to do something with fees.
I'm not saying we ought to do something. I believe it was 8 years ago, but I think the idea of the fees and the abutters list, all that comes from the land use department. We were making the rules and guidelines
Mhm.
with the help of the Adam Burney and the land use department. So I believe that was recommended by them to be put in there.
All right, so let me go back to Ann Aubrey. You know, I wish she might have an update as to where they are with hiring somebody. And let me see what she says. You know, she's been there long enough now. She ought to have an idea what her workload is and see what she says about the fees. And then maybe, you know, she comes back, like, she's gonna get paid one way or the other. You know, the only way that she, you know, that it becomes an extra task for what she gets paid for, if she has to come and help us run a public meeting at 7:30 at night. You know, then that's outside the scope of her normal duties. And I think that she would get compensated for that. And that fee might be appropriate to help pay for that time. But let me go back and talk to her and see what she says. And then if I get any intel on where the town is with regards to hiring a land use director, I'll share that information with you all via email. I'll try and get.
Also, the secretary was organized the public hearing
Mhm.
and did all the work for that, getting the room ready, setting up the document for publication. So that was all extra duty from her regular duties once the APDC came into being.
Okay. I think I understand that now. You know, like what I don't want to do is I don't want to make a citizen pay for work that would be done under the individual's normal daily routine. You know, I think that that person is already compensated by the citizens, and I would only ask the town to have, or the citizens of the town to pay for something that requires an extraordinary amount of work, different than what the daily routine is for the, you know, the land use director or his assistant. All right, so.
Yeah, Tony, my biggest thing is for all these fees that people have been paying,
Mhm.
you know, is that where they're going? Are they going to that land use department? You know, that gets follow the money. That would be my thing.
You know, one of the things that I wonder is how many people have actually paid the fee. I'm gonna see if that's because there's been a lot of things that people haven't done that were required by both our design guidelines as well as the bylaw. You know, so I'll go back and see if I can research whether people have actually been paying the fee.
When was the last time the fee was collected? Give me a good
Yeah,
date.
right. Richard, do you know for a fact that they collected the fees?
Yes, they were regularly collected. When we got the CTA application, it went to it was at the land use department. We received it from them and it was typically marked on the CTA that the fee was received.
Okay.
And usually we didn't process it if it hadn't been paid or we questioned it.
Maybe what we do is, because I bet you any money, there's an expense to paying for the public notice in the Lunenburg Ledger, you know, which is the document or the publication, which carries the formal town meeting notices for public hearings. So maybe what we do
That
is
was
that
coming out of the town
Yes.
manager.
Really?
Because we didn't have a budget, so we couldn't pay for it, so the town was paying for it out of the town hall, I believe.
See, now I think having a fee to pay for that is justified, because that's an extraordinary expense. All
Yeah,
right, so I'll do a little research on the fee business.
that
And
that will come out of our budget now that we have a budget, putting the
Mhm.
notice in the paper.
Okay,
That would come out of our budget. As far as the collection of the fee, that you want to talk to the town manager's office about that.
all right, I'll do a little more work on fees.
Mhm.
And then we'll require an abutters list and maybe some envelopes and some stamps. So that, I was trying to get away from that, but maybe we'll need to include that.
Yeah, you can get the answer to that at the town office, I believe.
Yeah, all right. So anything else on the proposed changes? And like I said, I kept the business about the abutters highlighted in red. I might have to change the language a little bit. And then depending on what we finally decide, I may have to include a provision in there for fees. And we'll take it from there. I don't think we should charge anybody for giving us a form that says, tell me whether or not I'm going to have to go to a CTA process. I don't think we should have any fee for that.
No,
Agreed.
Okay, all right. My plan is that when we get together in March, we're gonna vote on new guidelines and abbreviated guidelines. And that, we still might have to make a few changes, so the vote may be approved, subject to this change, that change, this change. But my hope is that by the time we get there, we can have that finalized, because then we have to bring that before the select board, and then they have, I think, 35 days according to the bylaw before we can actually start implementing that. And the issue here is I want to have this finalized so that when we notify everybody who's in the APD that our plans, our guidelines are set, our new forms are established.
sounds
All right.
great.
Okay, the only other thing that was on our little list of things to talk about here was 50 Main Street. I've not heard anything from Nathan. I think that we're at a point, going back and looking at the documents, particularly the bylaw, which governs and drives the whole process for us, more so than just the guidelines themselves. We definitely have an example of a demolition by neglect. And in accordance with the bylaws, not our guidelines, in accordance with the bylaws, we should invite him to our meeting formally, and then we may end up having a public hearing. Now, that could all get very messy, but I think that we're on that track. Unless Nathan tells me, I'm gonna call Nathan tomorrow since he didn't join us this evening, because it was his action item to deal with that. But if it turns out that he asked them and he got no response, then I think we're on the path to doing something that's going to be maybe contentious, which I don't want to do, but I don't know how else to move forward and stay in compliance with the bylaw, let alone our guidelines.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, William, we're setting ourselves up here for, that APD, see, they're just being bad again. So on and so forth.
No, I totally agree. And, we can go back and look at the minutes from several meetings where we talked about that residence, and with the fact of reaching out, trying to invite them to meetings. And, you can only reach out so many times before, you have to take the next step. So
Yeah.
I think we're well within our means.
Okay. All right. I might also have a conversation with the building commissioner, just kind of get his thoughts for how he views the structure itself, whether it's something he sees as being a potential hazard or a risk. It looks awful.
Yeah. You don't want it to get to a point where it's condemned.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so anything else that we need to talk about? Otherwise, we're going to have a short meeting.
All set.
William?
Yep, nothing from my side.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
Second,
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, everybody okay with the 12th of March for our next meeting date?
Yep.
Sounds good.
Alrighty, okay, so I have 2 action items. I'm gonna talk to Ann Aubrey about fees and workload. And then I'm gonna talk to Nathan about 50 Main Street, and then
All right,
we'll
great.
circle back from here. Alrighty, thank you very much
Good
for
night.
joining
Yeah,
us.
good night.
Have a good night, gentlemen.
Good night. Bye.